Is Bill Belichick on the hot seat? Yes, I think that's a real question. Plus, Matt Stafford not willing to restructure his deal, what it could mean for Stafford and the Rams' future. That and more on a Wednesday edition of Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome into another edition of Locked On NFL. He's Tony Wiggins. I'm James Rapien, and make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow the pod wherever you get your podcasts. And let's dive on in, Tony. Thank you so much, by the way, for making us your first listen. And shout out to all the everydayers. If you want to join that club, it's simple. Just subscribe on YouTube or follow wherever you get your podcasts. Bill Belichick, Tone, is considered by many to be the greatest coach, certainly NFL coach, in league history.
Yeah.
And I don't want to debate that today. But looking at his record since Tom Brady left, and Brady has since retired, but they were first in the AFC East from 2009 to 2019. Since then, with no Brady, third, second, third, 7-9, 10-7, 8-9. Tom Curran was on national show, Rich Eisen show, excuse me. I forgot Rich's name for a second, and suggested that the seat that Bill Belichick sits in as head coach of the New England Patriots is a little different this year, implied that he could potentially be on the hot seat. Is that fair? Is that foul given the 6 Super Bowls and everything that he's done in New England?
It's fair to criticize. I think it's foul to think that you would actually fire him. That's ridiculous. The only thing I can imagine that's even close to that talk is when Tom Coughlin won like 2 Super Bowls in 5 years with the Giants and they fired him. It's ridiculous. And I think what people don't realize, and I'm going to try to push this a little bit, and I know we're not necessarily talking about the GOAT conversation and all of that stuff. I really do think that the thought process for people to even get to that point is the fact that Brady left and won somewhere else. Well, Brady left and won somewhere else, and he cherry-picked a perfect situation, right? Sort of like Peyton Manning did when he went to Denver, although Brady put up stunning numbers. But if you go back to New England, when they won those first couple of championships, those first 3, Brady statistically, they were a running team. In fact, Brady's best years when they had Randy Moss and Wes Welker, they didn't win a thing. They went 18-1. Okay. And so my point is that this is a residual of that. And there's no way you would ever talk about firing him. You may talk about him coming upstairs and being the senior vice president of football operations, but Bill Belichick is allowed to tell you when he comes and goes. This almost feels like Tom, in my opinion, yeah, he is. He's earned that. This feels like Tom Landry. And this is you're benefiting from the fact that he has been there. This hasn't been musical coaches. Outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who've had 3 coaches in my lifetime, the only other time I can think of a guy hanging around one place this long was Tom Landry. And he got fired at the end because they thought it was over, right? We didn't see Joe Gibbs go through this. We didn't see all of those other great coaches stay in one place for a quarter century. And then, because things change or the game evolves a little bit, we sit here and want to put them out to pasture. I tell you what, tell me what they won before he got there. Don't worry, I'll wait, because the answer is nothing. When they had the little dude hiking the ball on the helmet, Sam Cunningham, and then the dude in the snow cleaning the field off, they were the laughing stock of the NFL, period. They didn't win nothing before he got there. I think people need to show a little bit more appreciation and understand. And they're not terrible now. They're just not what they have been, over the last 15, 16 years. And I think people need to go take a drug test if they talk about him being on the hot seat.
All right. Well, maybe David Locke needs to get someone to drug test me, because it feels like rarely do we disagree, but we disagree here, Tone. The man had a second-year quarterback last year. And who was his offensive coordinator?
Nobody.
It was a defensive coach and a special teams coach. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, ever, especially because we've actually seen firsthand how to treat quarterbacks and how not to treat quarterbacks when they're young. You saw it with Urban Meyer for a year. It didn't work well. And then guess what? They fixed it in Jacksonville, the team you cover. My team I cover, well, the Joe Burrow-led Bengals appear to be in good hands right now. And they've, outside of the offensive line, have done everything they could to make sure Joe's protected and happy and feels good. And that's the part of this where Mac Jones had a good rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
I felt good about his rookie year. They made the playoffs. They were a flawed team. He was flawed. He was limited, but he completely botched that. And then this week, so maybe that ruins Mac Jones, maybe not. And then this week, they have a chance to get DeAndre Hopkins. And it sounds like they weren't willing to go the $12 million per to get him. This is on the heels of giving Devontae Parker a 3-year extension. Sometimes the welcome is, and I get it because it's unprecedented, 6 Super Bowls, and I watched every single one of them. I'm a Brady fan, and this has nothing to do with Brady Belichick. I think Belichick is the greatest coach of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're paying Devontae Parker, and I don't care about the particulars, extending Devontae Parker when DeAndre Hopkins is out there, come on. Come on. This is the same guy that signed Nelson Aguilar to a big deal a couple of years ago. That obviously didn't work. Like it's just been a lot of, like, the Cam Newton thing didn't work. Like, a lot of it didn't work. And then Mac Jones, it looked like it could work, and he couldn't give him a real offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And now he has in Bill O'Brien. I just think the equity in it, it's the most equity in the history of the league, but he's starting to lose it, and he's cashing a lot of it in, and he's in a division. And this is the other part of this. He's in a division now where you have Josh Allen, you have Aaron Rodgers, you have Tua Tagovailoa, who is not in that conversation for me as far as great quarterbacks, but Mike McDaniel, along with Tua Tagovailoa, might be. And yet the guy who's running the show in an offensive world, in an offensive, where an offensive coach usually, if you get the right one, does wonders with a young quarterback, hired 2 completely unqualified candidates to be the OC last year. He didn't have an OC, but those guys kind of called the shots in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. It's just that part of it. There's a lot now. So if they go out there and win 6 games, and they shouldn't, that defense is really good, but if they win 6 games, that offense is bad again. I don't know. I think there's a path to it. And I don't think he should be nervous, but he needs to start getting some things right, because it looks ugly. It's uncomfortable. And I actually think Mac Jones could be decent. Like, if you put Mac Jones in Miami, I think he could do a lot of what Tua can do. And we'll see if Bill O'Brien can do that. But extending Devontae Parker and not signing DeAndre Hopkins, that seems kind of stupid to me.
So none of this sounds like a coaching issue. What this sounds like is a delegation of authority issue, or a not delegation of authority issue. One of the things I criticize,
it's a coaching when he didn't hire an OC.
Yeah,
Can
but
you get an OC in town?
I wouldn't hire a guy for 1 year if I knew my other guy was coming back. And so some of these things go on behind the scene where, O'Brien probably, man, I'm getting out of this thing. I'm not going to keep doing this forever, because there were people that thought Bill O'Brien was going to get fired last year for Alabama when they lost and they couldn't score in the game against Georgia. So the one thing I will tell you is this. I just talked about Tom Coughlin. Before he went to New York, he got fired in Jacksonville. I don't think Tom Coughlin, the coach, got fired. I think Tom Coughlin, the GM, got fired. So when I criticize the Giants, Jerry Reese was the GM. Tom Coughlin was the coach. So that being said,
should they hire a GM?
I think they should. I think they should go back and tap into some of the guys that they had in the past to take some of the burden and the responsibility off Bill and make him get out of his own way. They've lost Scott Pioli and all of these dudes over the years because they had so much success. I liken it to Alabama in terms of, because they've had so much success, they also lose a bunch of assistants. Maybe not the coordinators, but they lose a bunch of assistants. You just mentioned 2 of them, Patricia and Judge. I do think he might suffer from a little bit of the familiarity complex. And what that is they always talk about the Patriot way. And that's always real dangerous to me, because that means you have to get somebody that's connected to you in some sort of way. The one that probably got away was Brian Daboll. That's the guy who before he went to Buffalo, I thought was just going to be the OC and come there and really get it done. I don't mind Bill O'Brien being there to handle Mac Jones, who's from Jacksonville, where I live. And by the way, you said that he'd do good in Miami. James, I think if you played quarterback in Miami right now with all of those weapons, you would do good. So the thing that I don't mind about Bill O'Brien and Mac Jones
I'm
is
ready. I'm going to run all over the place, though.
Bill O'Brien was able
run.
to – Bill O'Brien, you're funny. Bill O'Brien was able to change the Texans and sort of ease Deshaun Watson in. And people can talk all of that crap about both of them or whether how they left Houston or whatever, but they were never better separate than they were together. And I think Bill O'Brien can come in there and he can probably do some of those things too to ease a little bit of that pressure off of Mac Jones. So I agree with you about the Devontae Parker situation. I'm totally there with you. I just
3 years.
It's a head scratcher. Well, it was a head scratcher for me when they traded for him in the first place. But Bill falls in love with guys that maybe he has to prepare against. And
he picked N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, sure.
That guy couldn't get separation against a garbage can.
Right. So
in college.
Funny. But the reason why you almost sit back and give him a little bit of leeway on that is because he also traded for Wes Welker. And then he found the other guy that everybody.
When I was in high school.
Yeah, but the thing is, it still happened. but it still happened. He also traded for Randy Moss. He traded for Randy Moss, and everybody thought Randy Moss was finished. You know what I'm saying? He's done some good things.
You were still in the military when he did that. Like, what are we talking about?
You're right.
Were you?
And no, I wasn't. But I tell you what, if I go in there and put that uniform on right now, and it doesn't fit, y'all gonna have me, put in a hospital somewhere. But I will tell you this: I'm just hesitant to give up on someone who has accomplished so much. And I think hot seat. I think him and Bob Kraft have to have a conversation about what his role would be moving forward. But Bill Belichick should always be a part of that organization unless he just doesn't want to. And by the way, for him to be the greatest coach ever, that'll be, if he gets fired, that'll be 2 times that it happened. Twice. Unreal.
I happen to know a number 12 that has retired that might be willing to help in the front office. Just gonna throw that out there. I'm just kidding. I'm not reporting. I was just thinking of crazy scenarios. Could you imagine? He returns to be half GM, half QB. Anyways, up next, let's switch gears from Belichick to, we'll go from one coast to another and talk about Matt Stafford and the situation that is the Los Angeles Rams, because there's a lot going on in Los Angeles. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is a one-stop shop for all things sports wagering, and baseball season is in full swing. And you can take your first swing at betting with FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. So let's say you deposit $20 and you bet $20. Well, you can land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend on betting everything from the money line, over, under, and anything in between on an app that's safe, secure, easy to use, and you're going to get paid instantly when you win. Again, sign up today at FanDuel.com/lockedon and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Tone, let's keep it rolling here. Matthew Stafford and the Rams. It's a top-heavy roster. I actually think they're sneaky underrated right now because they still have Cooper Kupp. They still have some talent. Obviously, Aaron Donald, Sean McVay, they're still there, and everyone just assumes they're going to win 3 games again. I'm not there with them. But there's a report out, and I think Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, was the first one to have this, that Matt Stafford – no, he wrote about it. It was Colin Cowherd, actually, that reported this, that – Matt Stafford was unwilling to restructure his contract with the Los Angeles Rams. And he signed it last year after their run to Super Bowl 56. Obviously, they won. He declined their request to redo the deal. Your instant reaction to this, because the Rams, obviously, they move money around all the time. Matt Stafford says, nah, I'm good.
why on earth wouldn't you? If you're going to get the same amount of cash, if they're going to just restructure it to the point where you're going to get more upfront or more guarantees, but stretch it out in an amortized situation, I think it's the height of selfishness. I mean, they came and got you and probably put you back into a conversation to go into the Hall of Fame. Now, granted, you delivered a Super Bowl championship to them also, but just think about it. If they come to you and restructure it, unless they're asking you to take a massive cut and pay, I have no idea. I'm gonna criticize them the same way I did with Lamar Jackson when he kept talking about, "Nah, we need to put more. We're going to guarantee those last 2 years of the deal," without understanding that they're trying to help you by helping themselves, and they're still going to give you a load of cash. So, yeah, I'm gonna criticize him because he's been around long enough to understand how this works. And maybe if they freed up some cap space, they can actually, I don't know, go out and sign some people to actually help him win, to help his career track end up where he wants it to end up. So without knowing the ins and outs of it, and very rarely do teams take money out of people's pockets, right? They just don't do it. If they're trying to do this just to structure your deal to help the team, I think if you refuse, then you get all the smoke. You deserve all the smoke that's going to come your way.
I think that it's interesting because if it was just a restructure and not a pay cut, why would he refuse? I don't think there's any reason. It doesn't change the money. It's a cap issue, right? It's just moving money around for the Rams. So I wonder if they asked him to take a pay cut. And here's why he wouldn't have done that. Because maybe you could say be a team player and you could still contend and all of those things. And I'm not saying you're saying that, but it's a lot to ask any player to take a pay cut. One, the quarterback market is booming. Two, they reportedly tried to trade him this offseason. And that's the part of this. It was just little murmurs, like they had shopped him quietly across the league. And if the Jets hadn't made a deal for Aaron Rodgers, that maybe there was a move there, but they had shopped him. And when a quarterback finds out about this, like, oh, now you want me to do you a favor? Nah. So I think that's what happened here. We'll see. But if it was just strictly a restructure, why would he decline? It doesn't make any sense. And why would this leak? I think they asked him to take a pay cut. He didn't. And now it's kind of uncomfortable. So this part of it does go against what I just said about the Rams being kind of sneaky and underrated.
Mm-hmm.
If there's trouble there between the guy who needs to be a baller for you to be good, because now they're really top heavy. They have a lot of high-end talent, but it's at the top. And after that, there's not much depth behind it. You need Matt Stafford to not only stay healthy, but have a great year. And that might be hard to do. One, he's coming off of injury. Two, if there's trouble in paradise there, then it could be difficult. So the Rams are a team to watch because there could be some drama. I think they have talent. I think they could be better than some think, but it could also unravel quickly.
So before we get to segment 3, where I'll say, okay, let's talk about those two teams we just talked about, the Rams and the Patriots, and which one of them exactly would you rather be, and who's going to have the better year, right? So I will tell you this though. Let's just say one of those points you made is true, that he's a little butthurt because they tried to trade him, right?
Yeah.
I say grow up, because this is business. That's what it is. It's business, man. You can't take that stuff personally. You're going to hurt yourself if you don't allow them to go out and get people that can help you win. I'm sure they're trying to help themselves while they're helping him. And I don't know how his structure or his salary is structured, but if you just signed a deal last year and they were willing to trade you, that means they were going to send you packing after they paid you a bunch of money that you just haven't gotten, that they already gave you, but it counts dead against the dead cap, the dead cap space. That means that whatever you got in terms of guaranteed cash in pocket, people don't understand something about signing bonuses. That stuff doesn't go with the player that gets traded away. If I give you a $50 million signing bonus and I stretch it out over 5 years, that money is in your pocket, contrary to something that a dude that's been a writer for 20 years in the NFL, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he put out the dead cap space was the owners keeping money. And I'm like, you can't be that dumb, can you? Dead cap space is money the owners already gave you that they stretched out like a credit card. And the second you leave, they either put a June 1st designation on it and continue to spread it out, or like Matt Ryan, they say, nope, let's just go ahead and bite the apple right now. And they let it accelerate into the cap and just go ahead and take a $40 or $50 million hit for money that they already gave you. So I don't get it. I also don't like the public nature of this, because we always talk about quarterbacks and leadership. I didn't like it with Lamar Jackson, even though it was a ploy for negotiation. I don't like this now for the Rams, and that's why I think they are going to stink this year, because when this stuff gets out and it's the quarterback that's doing it, that leads to a disaster during the season.
Up next, let's continue. You mentioned the Patriots and the Rams, who you'd rather be. I'd rather be the Patriots with Matt Stafford. That's next, right here on Locked On NFL. All right, Tone, third and final segment of a Wednesday edition of Locked On NFL. If Mac Jones struggles early and the Patriots are kind of in it, they have a lot of cap space next year. Just saying. Could they be a suitor for Matt Stafford? Because they're not going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. So I figured I would at least mention that. They're going to be too good for that. And so that said, who would you rather be, Patriots or Rams?
I'd rather be the Patriots because the Rams are very, very top heavy. I don't think they have a first round draft pick until 2046. I'm joking.
48, 2048, actually.
Yeah. So, and you're right. I'm glad you mentioned that about the Patriots when we were talking about them. That's a testament to what I've been saying, or what I said earlier. You're right. They have been too good to pick very high, but that's not good enough for people that are used to winning. And they're going to be right there this year. Even if they don't make the playoffs, they're going to pick 17th. And that's why they won't be in the Caleb sweepstakes. But yeah, I do think at some point, if the season gets going and like the defense is lights out, they got a good running game and they have capable receivers, and somehow Mac Jones' inability to drive the ball, because that is his biggest problem, to drive those balls on those deep outs and some of those deep passes. See, anticipatory throwing is fine, except when you're doing it because your arm's not strong. Because if it was all about just being an anticipatory thrower, Danny Werfel would have played 15 years in the NFL, but that's not the case. You do have to be able to drive the ball and get the ball where it needs to go. And if he struggles with that, especially in inclement weather, and then he's not a dude that's going to run around, Matt Stafford will be cool, even though Stafford doesn't run around. He don't have to run around because he can throw it sidearm, backwards, and behind his back, 50 yards down the field. And I think it gives you a different outlook on the field. But I would rather be the Patriots, because at least they have a shot, as opposed to a team that was pretty much a one-year wonder, and they've traded a lot of the parts away.
1 year, all right, hold on. They made the playoffs multiple years.
They won 1 year. They didn't win nothing. I'm talking about winning. When we compare them to the Patriots, who won, we didn't give them no mulligans for almost being good. We're talking about winning. It's win or nothing else. So
all between win or nothing else. Bottom line is neither team's probably winning that much this year, you know?
True.
Will they finish 17-17 combined with a 500 record or better? These two teams?
No, because I think the Rams are going to be in the Caleb sweepstakes.
Do you really?
Yes.
I think that was their logic. I think that was their logic, and I don't even – do they have their first round pick in 2024?
I don't even know if they do. They probably traded away for a bag of peanuts. They went all in, man. Normally what they did is something that you go against. But what made it okay is that they won. Now, had Joe Burrow had a half a second and caught Jamar Chase down the sideline, Les Snead probably would have got fired at some point. We're talking about a hot seat because they won that one championship.
They have their first rounder in the next 2 years. So
that's smart. That's smart in the way they did it.
You know what that means?
They might tank.
That's why they tried to trade Matt Stafford.
Right.
They were going to start Stetson Bennett. And see, if you're trading Stafford, man, you might as well just trade Kupp too. Kupp has value now. Yeah. Kupp's still a dude. Right?
No, he can play. I'm worried about the Achilles because he's a wide receiver, but still. Or was it a high ankle? It was a high ankle sprain. It wasn't
ankle. It was just a rough ankle. Yeah.
No, he's top 5, and I might be underselling it, but top 3 as far as a receiver. I'm worried about the offensive line, even though they played a little bit better last year. I'm never worried about Aaron Donald. I think Aaron Donald can probably get sacks as long as he wants to. I think they got some decent parts. They for them to be drafting where they've been drafting, they've been getting guys that can really make a contribution. But still, They got 2 games against the 49ers, 2 games against the Seahawks. And then I don't know what's going on in Arizona, but at the very least, they're going to – that's hard. That's not easy. That is not easy.
And we'll see what happens. Yeah, two tough divisions, 2 teams with question marks. We'll see what happens. That's going to do it. Thank you so much for listening today here on Locked On NFL. For Tony Wiggins, I'm James Rapien. And make sure you watch and listen everywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Camp will be here. Until then, thank you so much for watching and listening.